Hello, fellow widows and travel nurses out there. I did one of these last week while I was traveling up to Chapel Hill at UNC, one of my actually favorite places to work as a travel nurse, and decided, well, let's do another one this week. So, topics. I'd like to talk about preparing as a couple for the worst, because nobody gets out of this life alive. I know that sounds really kind of negative, but you have to think about these things if you want your spouse to be able to live and not lose everything after the loss of either any significant other, spouse being male, female, however you want to look at it. More chances than not, there are more widows in this world than widowers. Widowers tend to find and remarry more typically than widows do. Widows these days, I think most of us women are a lot more independent than we might have been years and years ago, and can pretty much take on ourselves and be able to do most everything ourselves. And yet, there are those downfalls. So, when you do get married, young love like mine and my husband's, we were happy, enjoyed our lives together. At some points we did have a significant amount of life insurance, and then there were times that I won't say we both felt this way, but that my husband felt like once he was turning about 50 that it was just too expensive to pay for every month. And that led, of course, to a lot of difficulty being a widow. Another thing that I'd like to touch on is discussion. Discuss what your wants, what you care about, what you feel is important when you are gone. And we did talk about those things. We both knew that we wanted to be cremated. We did not want to be buried in any way. We wanted our ashes to be spread lovingly someplace. Neither one of us had a real preference. And that, of course, I abided by his wishes, and he was cremated. It took about a year to decide what to do with his ashes, and there's always pressure from other family members, and you'll get this as a widow, that they have something in mind that they want you to do with the ashes. And I say, stand your ground and do what your spouse wanted. He didn't want to be buried in any way. There was a push for me to bury him in his ashes, because you can bury ashes and put a marker where the ashes are buried, and that's not something he wanted. He said he did not want to be under the ground. Very adamant about that. And I feel the same way. I feel like that it takes up space in the world, and that if everybody is buried with a marker, the world's going to be covered with graves everywhere, and we're not going to have enough room to bury people except on top of each other, which doesn't seem to be very productive in my opinion. So, about almost exactly a year to the date that we lost my loving husband, father, son, brother, uncle, we did a ceremony, and I found a place near home that is a wonderful, wonderful place that preserves lots of life as far as plants and things like that. Has a nice walkway, very serene place that they will do bricks in memory or in honor of people, and also will do memoriams as a larger piece of something that you can write a memoriam on. And that's what we did. And also they'll put up a bench. And walking through this place, the name is Hatcher Garden in Spartanburg, South Carolina, I fell in love with this one spot right by a small waterfall, and that had a lot of meaning to me, and it would have also to Dale, because a couple of our first dates we hiked to waterfalls. We loved to find waterfalls and adventure out and discover them when we were first together, and so that meant a lot to me, and I knew that he would be peaceful there. So I had the bench made and the marker made, and that came at a cost, of course, to donate money, because this is a nonprofit organization that really prides itself on having such a beautiful place to go, and they only do positive things in their growth of this area that was started by a couple, I guess, that owned the land and wanted it to be a preserve. So I'm very happy with that place. It's a very nice, peaceful place to go and sit, think about him. I just went last week, and it helped me to work through some things that I was dealing with because of some of the dates that had been happening, like anniversary and his birthday. And then in October, of course, is we call it angelversary of his death. And I'll be going back then, of course. I just find very, very solace moments there where I can feel like I'm talking to him, even though I feel like I do that other times. That is something that I think he would be very proud of, and that he is proud of, if in any way he knows what we did, which I believe he does. But I know not everybody believes in that. So, everybody has their beliefs, and everybody has a right to their beliefs. So, going back to planning ahead, when you get married, when you're buying a house, when you're doing things like that, things need to be thought about so that if something tragic were to happen to one of you, that the other person would not have to struggle. 7 out of 10 women will be widows. 7 out of 10. That's a high number. That's a lot of times due to women tend to marry older men. Also, that men are a little more, usually, adventurous, and maybe drive a little faster, or sometimes make decisions that they shouldn't, although that was not the case with my husband, except for the fact that I wish he had gone to the doctor a whole lot sooner. One thing I will say is, if you notice a decline in your husband as far as him having shortness of breath, especially on a short exertion like walking through the house, things like that. Really need to, sometimes men are stubborn, hold their hands and take them to the doctor. Hindsight's 2020. I wish I'd done that and I didn't. I've worked through that. It's not easy. I still struggle with it. Sorry. Trying not to get upset when I talk. Okay. So, one thing we should have done when we built a house was to add on a extra policy that if something happened to one of us, that the house would have been paid off. Yes, it would have increased the amount of a payment that we paid. That could have been one way we have done it. Another way would have been a life insurance policy or several life insurance policies that would cover the cost of the house, so it would have been paid for. I struggle with the payment. We had another house that we rented, and I have had to sell that due to not being able to keep it up. Which is sad to me because that's the first house we bought and it was my grandparents' house, so sentimental value. And as a lot of people will know, sentimental value, it's a tough one. We lose loved ones, and there are things that meant a lot to both of us, and unfortunately that was something that had to be done. So, things to plan ahead for. Yes, life insurance. Make sure your loved one is going to be able to live the way that you both want them to live, or talk about a plan of what would happen if a spouse passed away. What are your wishes as far as land, house, anything that you own together. We had a pop-up camper. We still have it. It's old, needs some work. Wouldn't be able to get much money out of it. It's sentimental to my kids, so it's not something that I'm willing to sell at this point. Other things, his truck, my husband's truck, meant a lot to him. I remember the day he was looking for a truck, and of course used. He's searching around, his dad's with him, and they're kind of looking for a good deal. And he calls me at work and he says, I think I found a truck I really want. And I'm like, okay, well, what kind of truck is it? Tell me about it. And he says, well, it's a 1999 Ford F-150 extended cab, red, and it goes vroom vroom. And I'm like, by gosh, if it goes vroom vroom, buy that sucker. And he did, and that truck ran good. And if it didn't, my man could fix anything. All he had to do was touch it. We always said he kind of had the magic touch when it came to anything that was broken. All we had to do was say it's broken, and it'd be working again. And it's like, hey, honey, what'd you do? I just touched it. Literally. Hilarious. But such a blessing in many ways, because didn't have to call service people, didn't have to take it to a shop, things like that. He could work on it. He could fix anything. And that truck broke down about a couple of years after he passed away, and it was going to be a good bit to get it fixed. It wasn't something that I could do or had a friend that could do or anything like that would be less expensive. It was going to be in the thousands of dollars. And I had to get rid of it. So I was heartbroken. My son was heartbroken. My son had always thought that was going to be his truck. And it would have been had we been able to keep it running. The heartbreak never continues. Never ends. Never ends. It always continues. And these are things that if we had planned ahead, if there was a life insurance policy that could have at least paid off the house, I could have been sitting a little prettier where, hey, could have fixed that truck, had it for my son, could do some repairs to the camper, and we could use it instead of it sitting in our driveway, and we use it occasionally just for fun, camping outside, and it can still be towed. It just doesn't, some things on it don't work right. Some cosmetic stuff too, but we feel like we just don't want to get rid of it. We had a lot of good times camping in it as a family. Also, you have to think about when you lose a spouse, and it's usually either way. If you lose your wife or your husband, your credit drops tremendously, and it's very hard to get any kind of a loan to help out in any way for if you didn't have money put back for when things do happen. And that's a big struggle also. So my advice, plan ahead. You never know when something's going to happen. If you feel better paying a little more money, do the life insurance policies that you can actually get money out of. And I forget what they're called, term or whatever, life insurance policies that, if you think, well, don't plan on dying. Nobody plans on dying. Don't plan on dying, so I would like to go ahead and have something that maybe I can get some money out of, years from now, so it's almost like an investment. Do that. That's another option. Another option that I've had to do, because I can't afford to pay for several life insurance policies, but I want to make sure my kids are okay when something happens to me, is I have done several different life insurance policies that are minimal amount through my banks, through my insurance company, a couple of other small life insurance policies that equal up to enough to pay off the house, so that they would at least have that as an equity. And most of the time those small amounts are about $50,000 to $100,000 policies. That's the only way I can figure out to do it right now. I get a certain amount through work, and I can buy more through work also, and as soon as things settle down a little bit, and maybe I can add a little bit more where I can pay for it, because right now the life insurance policies I have through work are just the ones that they give you for working for the company. But I might be able to, add some to that and be able to have a larger life insurance policy through the company. And so, to touch back, when you get married, have a plan, talk to each other about what if something happens. Talk to each other about what if something happens to both of you. Make sure that your kids are taken care of. Make sure that you're, write a will, have a living will, have all that stuff in place, so that, if the tragic happens, I know women that are in my group, the Modern Widows Club, that have lost their husbands very soon after they were married, and a lot of them were not prepared. This should be something you think about when you're getting married. If there's anything that I can ever do it would be to educate people on that. And somehow I will get to that one day. But I've got to educate myself a little bit more about it also. Like, what are the options? And maybe partner up with somebody that is a financial assistant that knows more about those type things. So that's the down and dirty, the ugly, the you got to talk about it, the if you don't, you're going to regret it, and just be prepared. And like I said, both ways, because it can happen either way. I know some people my age that are widowers, and I'm not sure about how they handled that financial situation or not. Most marriages these days have the wife and the husband working mostly, so that's a big, it's a big deal as far as that goes. Even if the wife's not working, there needs to be some type of plan for the husband if something happens to the wife, because who's going to help with the children? You may have to hire somebody to come in and be some sort of nanny to get the children where they need to go and make them have more, some sort of normalcy in their life. Cannot stress it enough. It's got to be done. So you newlyweds out there, you people planning on getting married, people that have been married but don't have a plan, please talk about it. And I realize that this is a little thing I'm doing that I have no clue really what I'm doing on this platform, but hey, I'm going to try it. It may go nowhere. It may go to 35 people. It may get out there to 10 people. I don't know. If it affects anybody in a positive way and helps them in life, that's all I want. So let's end on a positive note. Let's talk about my travel nursing. I got into travel nursing years ago, back in about 2012. Jobs were not great. They were hiring a lot of PRN staff, which is as needed staff that they didn't have to do insurance and stuff for, because all the Obamacare and everything was coming out, and hospitals were kind of leery of what was going to be happening, didn't know what the future held, and therefore they kind of put a stop on hiring full-time people. So I needed a full-time job. I was working a PRN that I thought was going to go to full-time, and they ended up having a doctor that left the group and could not support me full-time. So I had to do something. Dell and I talked about it. We decided, hey, this travel nurse thing seems good. You make a little more money. Let's try it, see how it works. He was all for it. I was going to be gone for, a little bit at a time, try to come home every month or so. And he thought, this is great. It's like you come home, it's like honeymoon time again. And it was fabulous. It was great. It was not a strain on our relationship. It seemed to work out well. And we enjoyed our time together once we were together, because we appreciated each other even more. Doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for us. So once he passed away, I ended up not going as far away as I had been. I had worked in Wisconsin and Virginia and DC, Iowa, and then I was in Alexandria, Virginia when he passed away, and I got the phone call. And came home, flew home to take care of that business, and of course they let me out of that contract early because they were an excellent hospital and beautiful people that I worked with. So came home, took about a month off, and then I knew I needed to work again. And so I tried jobs that I could get closer to home. So travel nursing, you have to be at least 50 miles from home, or it's not considered a travel job. But I live in South Carolina, so I did South Carolina, North Carolina, and then last year Georgia joined the compact state, so I was able to do Georgia. And I'll try to stay in those states that I can at least drive to work my 3 days in a row, and then come back home. Works out great. It does get tiring sometimes, but it works out great. I have found, though, that it barely makes the bills, so I'm probably going to end up having a part-time job or something that I'm going to get at home and work maybe once a week on one of my days off when I get home each week, and hopefully that will help everything kind of work together as far as making the bills. So I love travel nursing for one thing. I work as a PACU nurse, which is a perioperative, which is a post-anesthesia recovery nurse. So I take care of patients after surgery. I love being there to help the patients wake up, acclimate them to where they are, acclimate them that their surgery went well, that, be there if they're anxious, help them with their pain, just be their spokesperson as far as if they need anything. And I love doing that. I've always gotten really good word of mouth. Patients, thank you so much and everything. They don't remember us. We're like the forgotten area, but that's okay. I don't care. They, at the time, as long as I get and I don't even have to, but as long as I get thank you so much for taking care of me, you did a great job, I enjoyed talking with you, their family happy, those type things, I'm good. I'm just perfect with that. I love it. They may come back and have another surgery and not remember me, and that's fine. This job at UNC is a little bit different. I wanted to kind of spread my wings a little bit and see about another area. So I'm working in a cath lab, taking care of patients after they have cardiac catheters and other types of procedures, pacemakers, Watchmans, ablations, for AFib or AFlutter, lots of different other things. So I enjoy that. We take care of patients overnight, so I work night shift, which is perfect for me because I am a night owl. I am not a morning person. So that's a wonderful thing. I am learning a lot, and I love that. I always strive to learn more. If you are a nurse, you've got to do that every day or you will get burned out. So I advise anybody who is a nurse, go for it. Try something different at some point. Don't like it, go back to something else. Beauty of nursing, so many different things you can do. I know what I'm not good at or would not be good at. I would be good at it, but I wouldn't be happy. And that's important also. And that would be home health, hospice, pediatrics, especially hospice pediatrics or cancer pediatrics. I would not be good at. My heart's too thick. My heart is too open for that. I have way too many feelings for my patients to be able to do that. So I enjoy this, and we'll see what happens next. I've extended at the place I'm at now at UNC in North Carolina until November, I believe it is, and I enjoy that. So I know this is going long, but I wanted to touch on a couple of subjects just because I feel like I kind of set this up for widows and travel nursing, and gypsy nursing is what we call it, because we're like gypsies, where we could be at any place at any time. the good thing about it is you learn to jump right in. You apply what you know. You have to use everything you know. You have to be ready to change sometimes the way you think, just because of the way the hospital might do some things differently than other hospitals. So that's a challenge also, and I enjoy that. You may only get 1-2 days orientation, and a lot of that is just where things are. not exactly what you're doing, but where things are and kind of how the area runs. So it's challenging, but it's a lot of fun. And all right, I think that's about it for this little episode. If I don't know, everybody says this when they do these little YouTube things, hit the like button if you think this was informative. Leave me a message if there's anything you would like for me to talk about. And I guess subscribe. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how this works. I listen to a lot of YouTube stuff, but I subscribe to some things that I want to hear more about, and other ones I might just kind of catch every once in a while. So you can do what you like. I'm not in it to make money per se, because I don't think it's going to hit that many people, but I am using it more to be able to, I don't know, give myself a little therapy, talking about different things, and maybe educating in any way that I can. I'll try to shorten these up from now on. I'll have a specific thing that I'm going to talk about, and then that way maybe it'll shorten it up a little bit, and you guys won't feel like you're listening to this old Southern girl talking like crazy. Love everybody, and hope everybody has a great day. Come back and see me, leave me some comments, and let me know what you think. Bless you.